welcome to my channel. I'm Johnita Barrett and I do gluten-free, dairy-free cooking. Now today I have a recipe that I've had for years and years and years. This is a cookbook that I put together of my family's favorite things through all of our extended family's recipes that I gathered and put together so that one day my children would have this to refer to. My sons and my daughter-in-laws and my daughters would have this to refer to when they wanted to cook something that reminded them of their childhood. And then I found out I had Hashimoto's and I couldn't have gluten anymore, nor could I have dairy, and for a while I couldn't have eggs, but I have been retested for food sensitivities. I can have them now, so that's a great plus for me. So today I'm just changing the recipe up a little bit. This is Mama Doris's cornbread, but it's going to be a gluten-free version. So I'm going to begin with yellow cornmeal. And it's supposed to be self-rising, but I could not find any, so we're going to make it that way in just a minute. I'm going to do 1.5 cups. No, I'm going to do 2.5 cups of the cornmeal. She did 2 cups cornmeal and 2 cups flour, both self-rising, but I like it a little bit more cornmeal-y. So I'm going to do 2.5 cups of cornmeal and 1.5 cups of flour. Good. Cornmeal, and here's a gluten-free flour. Is that you can exchange one-on-one. It's not a almond flour, coconut flour, or brown rice flour. It's just a regular all-purpose flour that you can switch out one-to-one. So I'm going to do 1.5 cups of flour, gluten-free flour. Whoop. I always make a mess. It's all right. The mess can be cleaned up. It's 1. Cups of gluten-free flour. Now, to make it self-rising, because this was not either one, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt to every cup that I put in here. So that totals 2 tablespoons, which is 6 teaspoons, 2 tablespoons of baking powder. 1, 2, and it's going to be 1 teaspoon of salt, sea salt. And that should do the trick to make it self-rising. Now I'm also going to add sugar. We like our cornbread a little sweet. So I'm going to add 1/2 cup of sugar. There we go. And Mama Doris, she didn't like that much sugar on her cornbread, so she only did like 3 tablespoons. But we like, in our family, my children like cornbread a little sweeter than that. So, there we go. Now I'm just going to whisk this together because I want the baking powder and the salt and the sugar and flour and cornmeal all mix really well together before I start adding liquids. While I was getting this ready, I cooked 3 pieces of bacon, or 3 or 4 pieces of bacon, in a cast iron skillet. And so the skillet's got nice bacon grease in there ready for us to add this. And it's also a nice little crunch for the chef. Bacon while you're cooking. Okay. Now, I'm going to use 4 eggs. These are pasture-raised eggs. Nice. The yolk of a pasture-raised egg is much more, let me get close. Much more of like an orange color. You see it? More of an orange color than yellow. Just trivia. It's supposed to be healthier for you. Back in my day, before I had developed Hashimoto's, I didn't believe in all organic and that one type was so much better than another, because we weren't raised that way. I wasn't raised that way. I just thought it was a way to get more money for the groceries. But after I had Hashimoto's and I had tried everything else, I tried, going organic and gluten-free and dairy-free. For a while, it was egg-free as well as several other things free. And it really worked. It was the first thing that actually worked to make me feel better and to make me be able to lose a little bit of weight. I gained 50 pounds when I developed Hashimoto's. So I tried everything, couldn't get it off. But I've gotten 30 of it off. So I have to be happy. Be a happy grandmother. Let me wash my hands. Okay, so we have the 4 eggs. I'm gonna break the yolks. And I'm gonna go ahead and add the milk. Now, I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of coconut milk, unsweetened coconut milk instead of regular milk. This is the first time I've tried to make this recipe gluten-free, dairy-free. So we're gonna cross our fingers that it's gonna come out really well. I have another recipe that it's in one of my cookbooks that I have that is gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free. And I'm thinking about making that as a comparison with this, and we'll see which cornbread is the one we want to use for our dressing. So that's coming up next. It's making dressing. Alright, so really all I'm doing is combining these once I broke all the yolks. And you just want to just get it really good and combine and make sure there's no dry spots or big lumps. There's going to be some, but you don't have to have a blender, mixer, or anything like that. Just whip it up. And it'll be ready to go. Alright, fingers crossed. Let me get this skillet over here. Here we go. Alright. About 3 pieces of bacon is enough. I think I did a little bit more, and it's got a little bit more bacon grease, but in our family, bacon grease is just better. Sometimes you even would drizzle some on top. So, here we are. I'll show you up close where you can see the bacon grease coming around the sides. See all that goodness? There it is. So I've preheated the oven to 425, and I'm going to put it in for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back and give it a try. Alright, now we're going to try the other recipe that I have for cornbread, and we're going to see which one works out for us to make our dressing with tomorrow. So, this recipe comes from Gluten-free Vegan Baking for Every Occasion. I've adapted a little bit because I can now have eggs, and I couldn't before. And she has an option. Well, she has the option. The only option she has is to do 2 flax eggs, which flaxseed eggs is like a tablespoon of flaxseed and 2 tablespoons of water. Mix them together and let them sit, and it'll congeal, and it makes like an egg. So, but we're going to actually use eggs since I can have them now. But I don't know if you are like me, but I write. I don't know if you can see, but I write all in my cookbooks. I write little notes for myself if we liked it, if we didn't like it, it was good, it wasn't good. So this one has good, a little crumbly, and dry. So we're going to see. Maybe I'll add a little bit more maple syrup or something like that, because that's in this recipe. I'm going to put this over here. Alright, so first things first. I have unsweetened coconut milk again, full fat coconut milk. You don't want any thing that says slim or reduced fat or anything like that. You want full fat coconut milk. And this is what this is. It's 3/4 cup. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar to this. Alright, and we're going to give that a good little stir. And then we're just going to let it sit to right beside there till we're ready for it. Okay, now here's our cornmeal again, and this time we're going to do 1 cup of cornmeal, yellow cornmeal. That's what I use. And this is not self-rising. It's like we made it self-rising, and we'll add some to do this too. But all right, so about a cup. Now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of that all-purpose gluten-free flour. You can also use brown rice flour at this point. You can use this as well. So I'm just going to scoop it this time. And maybe I'm going to use just a little bit less because it was a little dry. So I'm going to use just a little bit less. Alright, 1/2 cup of that all-purpose flour, and then a 1/2 cup of almond flour. Again, on this one I'm going to use just a little bit less to see if I can make it less dry than it was last time. Still very good, very tasty. So a little bit, a little less, not much, just a little. Little adjustments. Okay, and then I'm going to use 1/3 of a cup coconut sugar. All right, here we go. All right. Now, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. The last of our dry ingredients. So we're going to use a teaspoon and a 1/2 of baking powder, and then a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And then a 1/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt. All right, so let's give this a whisk. Get it all combined. All right. Now, next thing 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. And I also use some oil to rub the pan that we're going to cook it in too. So this is 2 tablespoons coconut oil. And I need 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Little overflow, just a little. There we go. Now, 2 eggs. And whichever one of these we choose to do our dressing with, I will let that dry out overnight, and then we will start the dressing on it with it tomorrow. But the other one we'll just eat with supper. Wash my hands. All right, and then I'm gonna add the milk with the apple cider vinegar that's already in there. Cornbread's a really easy thing to make because you just really have one bowl and you just mix it all together. Mix all your dry ingredients together, then add in your wet ingredients and just mix it together. It's not really difficult at all. You can do it. When I first found out I was gluten-free, I stayed away from everything in any kind of bread or cake or anything. And then I was like, oh, I've got to have something like that. So I went to the grocery store and everything. I was reading labels. I would spend hours in the grocery store because I was reading all the labels on everything I could find that said gluten-free and make sure that it was free of everything else I couldn't have. And I ended up gaining weight at first because it was like, oh, that's gluten-free. I can eat that. So I was grabbing up everything that was gluten-free that I could eat. And I was like, I said, okay, I've got to get a hold of this. Just because it's gluten-free does not mean that I need to eat it. So, just because you go gluten-free does not mean that you won't gain weight if you eat too much. So I stopped that. But at first it was just kind of a panic of, oh no, I can't have any gluten. What am I going to eat? So I've learned a lot better since then. All right, now the big cook-off here. Spread this out. If you have an 8x8 baking dish, that would probably work a little bit better. This is a little bit bigger than that, but it'll work. It'll work fine for our purposes. All right, so now this will go into a 350 oven, not 425 like the other recipe, a 350 oven, and see, I don't know about how long. Let me see. Almost about 30 minutes again. 27 minutes is when you want to start checking, is what it said. So let's check it out. We'll be back shortly. Okay, here we are. 2 gluten-free cornbreads. And I'm just excited to taste it. Alright, I'm going to try to flip this out. It doesn't always work. Let me let you get a look at it before I try. Because it may crumble, but see how good that looks? That cornbread, it's pulling away from the sides. That's really good. So, let's try. Plate over this. We're going to cross our fingers and hope that I can get this out. So, let's see. I didn't feel it drop. No, it's not coming out. Oh, it did! Yay! I'm so excited. Okay, so I did get it out on the plate in one piece. That's a big plus. Now this one I'm not going to try to get out because it's just in a glass container already. So let's try each one. They have a little bit of a different color. This one's more of a yellow, probably because of those eggs. Well, this one has an egg too, but this one has more. And I don't want too big of a piece because I'm going to need it for the dressing, if this is the one I choose. There's that piece. All right. Here's this piece. So they're completely different color. Has to do with the different flours, and this has the almond flour in it. This doesn't have any. That I don't know. The maple syrup probably made this one more this color than this one. Let me bring it up close. See, they have a completely different coloring, but they're both very good. They're standing up well. They look delicious. I can't wait to try. Let's see. Tastes like cornbread. Needs a little butter on it, but can't have everything. Okay, now this one. That's good too. This one's sweeter. I'm surprised because I have regular sugar in this one and I have coconut sugar and maple syrup in this one. But the good news here is the adjustments I made this not crumbly. Before, this would just kind of crumble all to pieces. When I picked it up, it would just be crumbs falling everywhere. And it's not doing that. It's holding together much better. So I just did a little bit less on a couple of the dry ingredients and a little bit more on the maple syrup. And so it's holding together quite well. Now for the dressing, I think because I can taste a little bit of the maple in this one, I don't think that's would be the one to do for dressing. This is just would be one to have with your dinner. It's really, really, really good. I probably like the texture of it the best. For good old Southern dressing though, this will be the one. Very good. I'm going to cut back. I'm going to cut back on the flour and this next time because it is a little bit dry. I'm going to cut back on that. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Hey, I almost forgot. If you liked my video, please subscribe. That will help me out a lot. Thank you.